So, two people waiting. All right, you. That you went first. I'm gonna make you
recording in progress.
Still participants.
Okay, there we go.
Facebook. All going first.
No, I already admitted it. Miss AM. Could it do?
I just want to make sure.
Greetings, and thank you for your patience as we give a couple more people some time to get into the room. Make this bigger.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to.
Yes. And this is my husband, Mario.Jordan, and we're the Jordan Team Real Estate.
All right.
Armando, we're going to go ahead and ask you to mute yourself as well, if that's okay.
Sure.
And
All
yeah,
right.
so we're going to go ahead. We'll share a screen.
Thanks.
We'll kind of start the presentation. We'll make it quick. Give you the information that you need. Like I said, feel free to ask questions. You can drop them in the chat. We're gonna get there. Do you have the thing put up?
I do. It's right up there.
Oh.
Make this a little down. Oh, there we
There
go.
we go.
Boom. All right, here we go. On page. We're gonna get it.
We're gonna start at the end. Okay.
Here we go. All right. Once again, thank you all for coming to our home buyer seminar. Appreciate y'all taking the time to get this information. I am Mario.Jordan. This is my wife, Tayla Jordan. We are the Jordan team. We're going to share a lot of information this evening about the whole home buying process and get you guys started and help you out through the whole process. All right. So a little bit about us. Again, we are the Jordan team. We are brokered by eXp Realty. We have a combined combination of 4 years in the industry. We are based in the Metro Atlanta area, but we also do real estate in Tennessee as well. I'm licensed in Tennessee, as well as Georgia. We've been married for
A long time.
Yeah, a while. We actually high school sweethearts.
12 years next year, so a little over.
We have 3 children together. And then outside of our real estate business, we do like to spend a lot of time with each other as a family, doing trips, watching movies together, exercising, and just spending quality time with each other.
One more than the other when it comes to the exercising. All right. So as Mario said, we service Metro Atlanta area, Georgia. Mario's been licensed since 2018. I recently got my license this year so that we could work together and get some people in some homes.
Right.
So that's where we are. We're committed to our clients. We want to make sure that you all receive good customer service throughout your throughout the process of you looking for your home. And even if you're looking to sell a home, I know this is for first-time home buyers, but if you know anybody who's looking to sell or invest, keep us in mind for that as well. We definitely believe that integrity is one of the most important aspects you can have. You know, we want to make sure that we are very transparent with you so that we can make you as comfortable when you're making this purchase, right? Buying a home is your most well, it's not your most, but it is a very important and probably one of the biggest purchases that you're going to make in your life. So that's what we're here to assist you with.
Right. And I'm a firm believer that it is a beginning step of generational wealth. So it's definitely something that is very important. And it's also very important to use a real estate agent when purchasing a home, because you want somebody in your corner when you're going out looking at houses to make sure that you're navigating properly through the whole transaction. You want to get somebody that's professional, somebody that's obviously licensed in the state that you're looking, because we do have to follow a certain code of ethics and standards as real estate agents. And also understand that as your agent, we do work for you, but the commission 9 times out of 10 is paid by the seller. So you will receive our full support and our full assistance, but the commission itself will be paid by the seller.
In most cases,
In most cases,
by the
yeah.
seller.
In most
So,
cases.
yes. And there's sometimes when sellers will decide that they're not going to pay the commission. And in that instance, then usually it is asked that the buyer cover that commission. But like I said, sellers are usually willing to cover that, or like he said,
Yes.
But we're one. And I want to welcome everybody who just jumped on while I'm scrolling through these. Again, if you all have any questions, feel free to put the questions in the comments.
Right.
And I will try to make sure I can get those. And you can also drop in the comments where you are tuning in from. All right. So there are listing agents and there are buyer's agents. Okay. So we just kind of covered that. Listing agent, they're going to typically be working with the seller of the home. As buyer's agents, we're going to be working with you, hopefully, to help you find and be that middle person so that you can kind of bridge the gap. All right.
Because there's a lot of, there tend to be a lot of emotions involved when either somebody's selling their house or somebody's trying to buy a house. So we do act as that middleman to help negotiate and make sure the whole transaction runs as smooth as possible. All right, so again, going a little bit deeper into the role of a realtor. And if you have a pen and paper, you can take notes or take a screenshot of all this stuff. So the role of a realtor, we, of course, we give information about the available properties that you're interested in. We help analyze and compare the physical and economic features of the different properties, basically the style of the house, and also things within the community as well that plays a part in that. Excuse me. We provide different sources of finances, and that's basically talking about the lenders, giving options for lenders, the different types of loans that are available for you, or even if you want to go with the cash route, if that's an option for you. The opportunity to preview the property, that's basically us showing you the property, scheduling showings to go look at the properties that you're interested in, and we'll assist you in making the offer to purchase. And that's where our negotiating skills come into play when we are speaking to the listing agent on behalf of you, the buyer. And as on the listing side, they are required to present all written offers to the owner. Did you go to the next one?
I did. It's still there. Oh, I did. I'm sorry.
You keep it there.
Oh, yeah.
They are required to present all offers to the owner. Whether or not they want to accept it, they have to present everything. And there are laws set in place that prevents any type of discrimination, whether it's based on religion, sex, gender, ethnic backgrounds, anything of that nature. There are laws set in place to help prevent any of those things from happening. Okay.
All right. I'm sorry, y'all. My finger hit the thing. I don't know how to go back. But all righty. So mistakes that buyers make when they do not work with the realtor. All right. So a lot of the times, if you've never purchased a home, this is your first time buying a home, you may not understand what your local market has and what's all available to you as a buyer. You're not being selective. Okay. So you want to go out, you want to see all the houses that are available on the market. So you go on to like the different website search engines and you say, I want to look for all of this, and you put in all these things that you want. And now you want to go see every house that's available, but you have to be selective. And that's why you want to have a realtor with you. If you don't know what your price range is and you start looking for homes, it kind of creates a disappointment when you get in and you're like, oh, or once you've received a pre-approval and it's like, oh, I can't even get the houses that I've been looking for. So that's why it's really good to start working with the realtor, even from the beginning, to kind of help navigate you. So you're doing the right thing, joining us today. A lot of times when buyers don't have someone to represent them, they don't have the best negotiation skills. Now you may be able to negotiate, but you may not know exactly what you can ask for or the things that may be required of you, so that it makes it an even transition, because your goal is to buy the house, the seller's home is to sell the house. So a lot of times you have to take the emotion out, and that's where having somebody that's more neutral to help you say, okay, well, that's not a non-reasonable request of the seller. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
And it's also understanding where the current market is as well. And as agents, we have a better understanding where the current market is in certain neighborhoods. So that's where we come into play with having a little bit of a stronger negotiation skills based off of knowing what the market is in that moment.
Right. And so, and I'm kind of just jumping back to that negotiation skills. You want to make sure that when you are in this process, you don't want to be lowballed or offer too much when there are things that you can get. So you don't want to lose thousands of dollars by trying to go in on your own. All right, you may not understanding, kind of going back to what Mario was saying, understanding the pricing and the value of the certain amenities that are inside of the home. So maybe there's a pool in the back. Sometimes pools really won't affect the value of that house. It really just depends on the area that you're in, right? If you're in an area where everybody has a pool, then it's common, right? But if you're in a place where it's really not common, then that may be something that you're willing to pay a little bit more for to have, right? When you're looking on your own, you may not think to preview the different schools in the area. You may not think to go around, look at all of the shopping and the other neighborhood amenities like the gyms and things like that. You don't understand all of the available financing options that are there for you. We are going to go over some of those later in this presentation. You are not requiring the property inspection. You want to make sure that you get an inspection on the property. Some types of loans don't require that, right? Again, we're going to cover all of that. But if you're not working with the realtor and you're not thinking to do these things, then again, it can cost you thousands of dollars. And then finally, a lot of times buyers will make the mistake of overlooking homes because of things that could have been fixable. Right. So you didn't like the way the door looked, or you didn't like that that wall was broken. Those are things that you can buy your home, and then that's something that you can have fixed if this was your dream home. You make things that should not be deal breakers, right?
Or something as simple as wallpaper. Wallpaper can be taken down. It's not, that shouldn't be a deal breaker when you're looking for a house.
Exactly.
All right, so understanding the advantages of home ownership. Home ownership, houses appreciate in value. of course, we know over the last couple of years, we've seen a big increase in the prices of houses just going up rapidly. And of course, that was unusual, but over time, houses historically do go up in value over time. So you gain equity as long as you own the house. Of course, you're paying it off, but you gain equity while you're owning the house. Equity renting is with equity renting. When you're renting a house, you're paying 100% interest because basically you're paying somebody else's mortgage. You're paying the landlord's mortgage. So you gain no equity in that whatsoever. But when you're buying your own house, you're actually building equity for yourself. Roots, people who rather own than rent, they tend to stay in the house 4 times longer. And they also get to a better opportunity to know their neighbors and connect with the local community. Education, research shows that children of homeowners tend to earn higher test scores and graduate. Tax savings, there's tax deductibles, benefits to owning a house. There's a lot of tax write-offs, home-related expenses to owning a property. And happiness. Happiness, you have the sheer enjoyment of your home. It's yours, you know it's yours, you can do with it as you please, you can change things around, you can make your yard how you want it, you can decorate. It's literally your house, so you have the sheer enjoyment of just making it your actual home.
And again, that is within reason.
Within reason.
Yes, if
if
you are in an HOA, then there
but
may be some restrictions, right? But for the most part, yes, it's your home. You can change the wallpaper. You can decorate, like he said, for the holidays and things like that. All right, before we move forward, anybody have any questions? Feel free to pop off mute. Have any questions? Questions going once, going twice?
all right, moving on.
So renting your home versus buying your home. So I'm just going to run through these for you all. So when you're renting a home, number one, you don't get the tax write-offs that Mario was mentioning last. Now with that, because I am not a tax preparer, I'm not going to tell you what those write-offs are. That's something that I would definitely suggest talking to whoever does your taxes and just kind of see, what do I get when I'm owning a home versus when I am renting a home. When you're renting, your rent can go up every year. I know in this last couple months for sure, but this past year, I've heard so many people saying how their rent has gone up almost $800 in some situations. And if your rent is going up $800 a month and you have not received an $800 a month increase on your job or raise, that's something that you should definitely be thinking about.
Real quick, in Metro Atlanta, over the last year, we've actually seen a rent increase of between 16 and 22% in the last year. So that's a huge jump for a 12-month lease.
All right, exactly. So you must get permission to make any changes, and then depending on where you're renting, if you're renting a home, those changes are limited. But if you're in an apartment or something like that, a lot of times it's not. You get one accent wall for the most part. All right. Number 4, you have no equity to build up. Your money is gone. And I love when I talk to people who are choosing to buy a home. I really love to make the explanation. Like when you are renting, like Mario said, you're buying somebody else's house. So everybody's buying real estate. You're just buying it for someone else. So when you are renting, the money is gone. When you're buying and you're spending that money, even if you don't feel like, oh, there's equity, if something happens to you, this is going to stay in your family until somebody chooses to sell this property. So it is definitely an investment. And then number 5, when you are renting, you can be evicted. All right.
Number 6.
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't see number 6. Number 6, your living situation is always temporary for renting. So, yeah, 2-3 years in, you're like, where are we going next? Okay, I have to get out of here. Where are we going next?
Again, because usually the rent is going to keep increasing. And over time, you're like, all right, I need to find somewhere else more affordable. So now you're looking for the next place to go.
Exactly. All righty. So buying, just going to be the opposite. So when you're buying, you do get the great tax write-offs. Your housing expenses may never increase. Again, that depends on what kind of loan you have. But for the most part, once you've locked in your price, you've locked in your price, right? Number 3, you can use, decorate, make physical changes to your home as you see fit. Again, within reason, if you're in an HOA. Number 4, you may buy large equity as your home appreciates in value. You are not at the mercy of your landlord. So you don't always have to be looking over your shoulder. Usually, if you're having a hard time and you are buying your home, they want you to stay in your home. The bank wants you to keep your home because the bank wants their money and they want all of it, right? So they're more likely to work with you. Whereas when you're renting, you got those 10 days usually, and they're like, you're out of here. Number 6, your house will become a home. It's not a temporary living situation. As long as you want to live there and you're able to do what you need to do to keep your home, it's yours. All righty, so we're gonna start with the buyer's roadmap.
And if you want to take a screenshot of this, go ahead. And we're going to, of course, dive deeper into everything, but we're going to run through this real quick. But yeah, if you want to take a screenshot of the roadmap, then please do.
And I definitely recommend, if you can take a screenshot, to take a screenshot of it. And then as you go through the process, check this off, make this your check off list. All right, I'm going to stop and I will let Mario
All right, so again, real quick, I'm gonna run through it. Again, we're gonna go into it in detail here shortly. So the first step is meeting with a real estate professional, which is as you're meeting with us now during this seminar. Step number 2, which I actually like to kind of combine those together when you meet with the agent, but getting pre-approved, meeting with the lender, going through the pre-approval process, figuring out what you can afford. Step 3, then we go start searching for houses, searching for homes. Number 4, you find the house that you like, make an offer. Negotiating skills, step 5, whether they accept, they counter, or decline your offer. Number 6 goes under contract. It goes through the process, due diligence process. And step number 7, the final details, final walkthrough, inspections, things like that. And then step number 8 is closing day. Meet at the closing table and gain possession of the home.
All right, are you ready to buy? So a couple of things that questions I should say, that you would ask yourself to see if you were ready to buy. So number 1, do you have a steady income? Okay, a lot of times when you're with your lender, they want you to have been on your job for at least 2 years with a steady income. If you've been or heard us say before, if you are or were a student, right? And it's been within the 2 years that you have graduated. For the most part, if you left school and then went into a job, they will count you being in school as a part of that, 2 years, right? You want to make sure that your debt is low to medium. So you just ask yourself, where am I? That's a good idea for you to kind of have an idea of what your credit score is, right? So that you know what your debt is compared to what your income is. Have you been saving for your down payment? Okay, and not just for the down payment. And if you are paying full, then once we get to that part about lenders, because people pay for houses in cash, we don't tell you how to spend your money. But yeah, if you are needing a loan, you want to make sure that you've been saving for a down payment. You want to make sure that you have money set aside for the inspection. You want to make sure that you have money for the earnest money, right? And then you also want to make sure you can cover the closing costs. Go over that later, the different things that you could do with closings. And then you want to make sure that you have at least 2 months of your pay stubs or bank statements, and also your taxes for the past year. You want to make sure that you have that. So I also recommend, I'm going to say this here, I'm pretty sure we're going to say it again. When you are filing your taxes, especially if you are self-employed, you want to make sure that you are letting your tax preparer, what is it? The word?
Tax preparer.
Yes, your tax preparer, your accounting, that's the word I was looking for. You want to make sure that you're letting your accountant know, hey, I am trying to buy a house. I know a lot of times accountants want to help you when you're self-employed to save as much money as possible. But what can happen is they save you too much money and it looks like you made nothing, right? Because they write off so much stuff. So if you are self-employed, just make sure that you're letting your accountant know, hey, in the next year, I am looking to buy me a home in the next 6 months, whenever. And then we also want to make sure that you have been, or a question you would ask yourself, have you been at the same job or with the same industry for the past 2 years? I get it. Sometimes you work at a job, it doesn't mesh well with you. You don't get along with people, people don't get along with you, or you just grow out of that place. And when you do that, if you're in the same industry, it's understandable. Sometimes lenders will wonder, well, why is this person in a different industry now? They just want to see that you are steady and consistent, because when you're steady and consistent, they feel like you will be steady and consistent when making your payments.
They just want to make sure there's some type of security there with you paying back the loan.
Getting pre-approved, and let Mario cover this for you all.
All right, so getting pre-approved. First thing, of course, if you're going with the loan option route, choosing the right lender. You want to make sure you choose a lender that's going to give you the best deal, I guess you can call it. And I always recommend going through 2 to 3 different lenders, because all lenders are not the same. So if you go to lender A and he gives you a certain pre-approval with certain closing costs, lender B and C may give you something totally different, because they work for different companies. They may give you something different. So it's always good to shop around to make sure you're getting the best option for you. You're never obligated to go with the first offer, that you receive. So always go shop around when you first looking for a lender. So you want to fill out the application along with whoever you're going through. The approval documents are going, like Taylor said, you need your pay stubs, your bank statements, make sure you have all this stuff with you, your tax returns, proof of employment, and depending on what type of loan you're trying to receive, a credit score of 580 plus. Now, we have seen some lenders work with a 550, but in general, they start off with a 580. And of course, the higher your credit score is, the better rates that you will receive, better rates and better closing costs that you will receive.
And before,
and the loan estimate document. So the loan estimate document will be, you will receive that within 3 business days after being pre-approved. And basically what that is it's going to show you an estimate within 10% of what your closing costs will be. And the closing costs, we'll go into that in more detail later on, but it'll give a rundown of all the costs of actually purchasing a home. And it, like I said, within 10% of actually of what it will be.
Okay, and before I go to this next slide, I'd like to throw this in. So if you are going to pay cash for your home, okay, where you don't need to have your bank statement, well, you do need bank statements. What I'm trying to say, I'm sorry, is if you are paying cash for your home, you just need to show proof of funds, right? So yeah, they really won't care if you have a job or not if you're paying cash. But when you go and you say, hey, I'm ready, just make sure that you can show that you have money in your account and that you really are ready to buy.
Well, they will ask you, where did the money come from?
I mean,
they are going to ask that.
Yes, but I'm saying, like, yeah, we want to make sure that you have the money there to buy. It was something else I was going to say. It'll come back to me, I'm sure. Oh, choosing a lender. I'm sorry. I wanted to also say, Mario said that you all need to have like 2 or 3 to shop around. We also recommend that when you do that, you do that in a short period of time. So when you're doing your pre-approval or pre-qualification, and they do what we call a hard pull on your credit report, you want to make sure that you're doing this probably with the most people will say 14 days. I say if you can get it done within a week or so, because you are essentially interviewing the lender. Like Mario said, you don't want to just take the first offer that you have. You want to interview them, and we'll go through all of that. But yeah, that's something I definitely want you all to think about when you're starting your process. You want to try to get that done in a short amount of time so that every month is not a hard pull on your credit, because that could lower your credit score, right?
All right, diving into the financing options. So of course, cash, if you have the cash option, you can always go with that. And it's pretty much cut and dry. You pay cash. You will still have some closing costs, but it and of course inspection and stuff like that, but it definitely it's pretty much, like I said, straight to the point. Then you also have conventional loans, you have FHA loans, you have VA loans, you have USDA rural loans, and you have land and lot loans. Oh, and construction to permanent loans. But we'll go into detail about the conventional FHA, VA, and USDA loans on the next slide and really give you the true breakdown.
Alrighty, so mortgage term options. So when you're speaking with your lender, you want to ask your lender about the mortgage terms and decide what term is going to be beneficial for you. Okay, so then it kind of tells you have fixed, you have 10, 15, 20, 25, 30-year terms. Those are fixed, right? So once you get those interest rates and your terms, it's going to be pretty much set. Right. So you have short-term mortgages. Those are best for people who want to have fewer payments. You're planning on paying off your mortgage faster and you want to have a lower total cost. So you're probably going to pay more monthly when you have the short-term mortgage, but you're going to get through that loan faster. And then you have the long-term mortgages. Those are best if you want to have the lower monthly payment. You want to have more time to pay off your mortgage. This opportunity, if you want to have the opportunity to benefit from the lower rates in the future, and that's if you have an adjustable rate mortgage. Mario can kind of say a little bit more about how that.
And before I even go into the adjustable rate mortgages, so the short-term fixed are typically the 10, 15, 20-year fixed terms, and the 10 and 20, 25 are relatively new. That's something that they just started offering over the last few years. But those are the short-term fixed. Long-term is the 25, 30, and they also, very few institutions offer a 40, but there is a 40-year term that's available. Now, as far as the adjustable rate mortgage, or also known as ARM, it's how that works is there's different types. So you have some that's like a 4-to-1, which is basically, so the first 4 years, you will have a fixed interest rate. And so say it's 5%, just to make it simple, 5% for the first 4 years. Then after them 4 years, then it goes into adjustable. So it might go up and then it might go down. So it's really a little bit of a gamble. You might get a better rate or it might go. But for the first 4 years, if you go for the 4-to-1, then it's going to be locked in for those 4 years. Or if you do a 5-to-1, first 5 years, it's going to be locked into whatever it is for the first 5. And typically with the ARM, the interest rate is a little bit lower during that first few years.
Right. Okay. And again, these are questions that you also want to make sure you're asking your lender. All righty. Conventional loans. So with a conventional loan, you want to make sure that your credit score is at least a 620. There are some lenders that can work with you if it's a little bit less, but typically if you have a 620, I would probably suggest, if you can go this route, the down payment, it's going to be between 5 and 20%. You can pay as much down as you have, right? But typically between 5 and 20%. Conventional loans, they are not government insured. So they're not issued by the government. They are not monitored by the government. It is like a private money loan, okay? Then you have your private mortgage insurance. So this is if you pay less than 20% for your down payment, then you are going to pay private mortgage insurance. That's typically added to your monthly mortgage payment. That will go away once you have 20% equity in your property, right? So once you get to the 20% of the amount of your loan, then the PMI will usually come off.
Right.
And so that's 0.5 to 1.5% a year. And then you have 43 to 45% of a debt to income ratio. The max or debt to income ratio max. So
Yeah.
pretty much Mario can explain that better than I can explain.
Yeah, so that
too
is
many
basically,
words.
so the debt to
I'm
income,
sorry.
not the
Okay.
debt to income ratio. So when you meet with the lender, they're gonna look at the debt to income ratio on the front end and on the back end. So on the front end, they're looking at how much you make as far as your income, but then also if they give you a loan and they'll figure out, for example, how much the monthly mortgage will be, they're going to determine whether or not you fall within that criteria of that percentage as far as like the debt to income ratio on the front end. Now on the back end, they're also going to start looking at your credit card debt. They're going to look at if you have car payments, they're going to look at if you have student loans, things of that nature, and including what your potential mortgage would be, and they will determine whether or not you fall into the criteria. On the previous slide, it did have the 50%. In some cases, they will allow that, but there's a lot of additional stipulation that comes with that. Like you have to have a squeaky clean record of paying your bills over the last few years. There's a lot of stuff that goes with that. And so in some cases, they will allow you to have a little bit higher debt to income ratio, but there are special stipulations that come along with that as well.
Alrighty. FHA loans.
Yep. So FHA loans are government insured. They in most cases, the lender will allow you to have a slightly lower credit score, 500 to 579. But with that, you have to put a 10% down payment. 580 plus, you're looking at a 3.5% down payment. So typically when a lot of people do the FHA loan, they try to stay around the 580 plus range so they can do the 3.5% down payment. With this, there is a mortgage insurance premium similar to the private mortgage insurance with the conventional, but this is a mortgage insurance premium, and it is required during the life of the entire loan. So this is something that never goes away. And the reason why you have this on the loan is because, again, because it is government insured, they want to make sure that just in case you default on the loan, you get behind on the loan, you default on the loan, this money is going towards paying the lender the amount that was owed on the debt, on the property, on the debt. So that way the lender knows for sure that they're going to get their money. On the front end of the debt to income ratio, you have a 31 to 40% range, and then on the back end of 43 to 53% debt to income ratio max. So you can see on the back end it's a little bit higher because, again, they're adding more stuff. And then before we move on, as far as debt, your bills do not count as debt because those are reoccurring things. So your electric bill, your water bill, gas bill, things like that are not considered debt because those are things that you're going to have for a lifetime. As long as you are living somewhere, you're going to have those things. So they don't include that in the debt to income ratio. The property must be FHA approved. And the reason why it has to be FHA approved, because there's a lot of, there's a list of restrictions when it comes to, with the FHA when it comes to certain properties. So that's why inspections are required with an FHA loan, because they are real strict on things being like the electrical outlets need to be properly installed. The pipes in the house need to be up to par. So there's a lot of things that need to be in place in order for it to be FHA approved.
And I just wanted to kind of jump in there when I said with the conventional loan, because it is a private loan versus the FHA loan, that was the reason why I was saying like before that you want to make sure that you are working with a realtor to make sure that someone is telling you that you need to get these things done. So with the inspection, like Mario just stated, if you go conventional, a lot of times nobody's going to push you if you were on your own to get that. With the FHA loan, the government, because this is government insured, they want to make sure that when you get into your home, that it is a livable home, right? So that for that reason, if you are an investor, you can't use FHA loans, because typically if you're investing in a property or you're trying to fix up a property, it does not fall up under this scope, right? It's going to need work.
And plus, if you're an investor, you also can't use an FHA because you have to live in the property for at least 2 years.
That's it. All right. And so there's that, I'm sorry.
Again, so it requires appraisal and inspection contingency. That's just required with the loan. That's a part of the process. All right, so VA loans. So VA loans are specifically for military veterans and the spouse of a veteran. Again, of course, it's a government insured, being it is the military. There are no down payments required when you are going for a VA loan. Typically, even with the lender, they don't have a minimum credit score, but the VA doesn't require a credit score, but the lender typically does. So that range is on the low end 580 to 620, depending on what lender you go through. There is no PMI, so you don't have to worry about the private mortgage insurance or anything like that. The debt to income ratio for that is 41%. It does require appraisal contingencies. And again, there's no down payment required, but there are, as far as with the VA loan, if you are buying a condo, it has to be VA approved. Again, it's very similar to the FHA loan, but this only applies to condos. With the VA loan, it has to be VA approved. And again, there's a long list of their requirements because again, it has to be a livable environment for you and your family.
All right, everybody catching this? Anybody have any questions before we move on? I know it sounds like a lot of information.
Again, write it down, take some notes, take screenshots.
And yeah, once we sit down with each one of you individually, if you so choose to use us, then we'll kind of go through this on a step-by-step. Alrighty. USDA loans. So USDA loans are going to be more designed for rural areas. These are going to be low income homes. There are no down payments. The interest rates are fixed. They're currently at 3.25%. They can go as low as 1% with payment assistance programs. The maximum square feet of your property is 200 is 2,000. Who can live in a 200 square feet home? 2,000. It cannot be an income producing property. Oh, and just to kind of go back with the VA loans, like the FHA loans, you do have to live in the property for 2 years. I don't think I said that on that last slide. But yeah, with the USDA loan, you cannot use it to produce income. And
yep. As far as the interest rate, the USDA department, they set their own interest rate. They don't usually go by, the lender doesn't set that. That's set by the USDA organization.
Right. It takes, you have 33 years to pay back this loan.
Okay. And as far as like the rural areas, you can go to the USDA website and it gives a list of all the rural areas where that loan is allowed to be used. And basically rural areas are pretty much the country for the most part.
Yes. All righty, so we're going to talk about some assistance programs. Do we have anything for Tennessee? Yeah. Yes. So we'll start with Georgia. Okay, so in Georgia, you have the Georgia Dream. Oh, I had a little sheet and I forgot to bring it, but Georgia Dream, and Mario can tell y'all specifically about these.
Yeah, so Georgia Dream is, so these are down payment assistance, like grants and things like that. So Georgia Dream, they have different grants that they offer to first-time home buyers. There may be a fee to partake in their program. So you always want to make sure you read all the fine print on whatever program you decide to go through. Then you also want to make sure it's beneficial. Yes, it's quote unquote free money, but you want to make sure it's not, see if it's something that you might have to pay back in the future. So you always want to make sure you read all the information. And also with Georgia Dream, there's pros and cons with all of them. With Georgia Dream, if you're trying to close relatively quick, they typically don't close on houses until like 45 days later. So if there's something you're trying to close on pretty quick, Georgia Dream may not be the route that you want to take. But again, just check it out, and if it's for you, then definitely go with that. Then you have the homeowners program, also known as HOP. It's in Atlanta. It's pretty similar to the Georgia Dream. They have different first-time home buyer grants and loans and stuff like that. Invest Atlanta, They have a lot of stuff to like revitalize properties in Atlanta. And then there's also local. So if you don't live in the metro Atlanta area, you can check with the county, whatever county you live in, they may have some type of down payment assistance program as well. And so with Tennessee, we have the Tennessee Housing Development Agency, and then we have the Housing Fund, pretty similar to the ones I mentioned before. They have a lot of grants and loans for first-time home buyers. They have some for investors as well. But again, just make sure you read the fine print and make sure it works for you. You want to find what works for you. Like I said, they're giving you some money. You want to make sure, is this something, do I need to pay this back later on? Or is this a forgivable loan? Or is it just a grant? You don't have to worry about paying it back. But again, still always read the fine print. So nationwide, we have Homes for Heroes, and this is specifically made for military personnel, law enforcement, firefighters, EMS, which are the ambulance drivers, and teachers and health professionals, such as doctors, nurses. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, but possibly pharmacists fall under that, under the health professionals category. And so they have grants and loans on there for first-time home buyers as well. Teachers Next Door, which of course is specifically for teachers and educators, yes. And Good Neighbor Next Door, which is made for military, law enforcement, and teachers, but it's specific for HUD homes. And HUD homes are, it's a housing and urban development, and HUD homes are basically houses that were foreclosed on. So when I was speaking earlier about the mortgage insurance premium on the FHA loans, these are houses that were foreclosed on, and now the government they're trying to sell those houses to try to recoup some of the money that they had to pay out to the lender.
All righty, so we've covered the different types of loans that you can get.
And now to the fun stuff.
So now you've gotten your pre-approval. You sat down with your significant other and you've decided what you like, what you don't like. So we're going to start with your home search. So understanding what you're looking for is a top priority. We're going to talk about the different features that your home, of your future home. So number one, you want to definitely be thinking about the location. When you're thinking about the location of your home, you want to think about where you work. You want to think about where do you play, right? So if you're spending more time playing than you are working, then you want to just make sure that your drive and that the environment that you're in is going to be good for you. Like if you want to have a condo and be close to like the stadium, you know, there's a lot of foot traffic down there, which means there's going to be a lot of car traffic down there. Maybe you work on the other side of town, but you enjoy being the life of the party and being in that environment. So you definitely want to think about that. You want to think about the price. You've gotten your pre-approval. Just because you get a pre-approval and you're approved for $500,000, that does not mean that you need to go and pay $500,000. And this is what I was going to tell you earlier, and it didn't come back to me. So when you're talking to your lender and they're telling you what you're pre-approved for, you want to ask them at that time, okay, with this pre-approval, what does it look like my monthly mortgage payment is going to be? Right? Because you want to make sure that whatever your mortgage payment is, you're still able to enjoy your life. You don't want to get into your home and it feels like a burden, because now every amount of money that you make is making sure that you stay in your home. So that's just something for you to think about. You want to think about the square footage and the bedrooms in the house. So how much space do you need? Right? Do you plan on starting a family? Do you already have a family? Have your children grown up and moved out? Right? Those are things that you want to think about. Do you need, how many bedrooms do you need? Are you an artist and you need a separate room for that? Do you work from home? Do you want to have a separate space for that? So those are things that you want to definitely outline. You want to be as specific as you can at first. And then as you go through the process, then you can start talking about what you're able to negotiate on, right?
And even with the square footage, you want to think about, are you looking for an open floor plan? Do you want the open floor plan to determine how you want to decorate? or does it matter? Like, do you want more walls? Some people actually like more walls in their house. So that's also something that you want to think about.
Yes, so that was my little next list over here. So you want to think about how many bathrooms that you want to have. The style of your home. Do you want it to be a ranch style home? Do you like to have stairs, right? The features, and not only in your home, but the features in the neighborhood around, the different schools that are available to you. If you have children, or again, if you're planning on growing your family. And then you also want to think about if you're in like a football town and you're next to a school, right? You want to think about that, because a lot of people, hey, they like football, and you want to make sure that you are thinking of those things. I'm sorry, it's in my eye. All right. Okay.
All right. So again, still sticking with searching for homes. You have different types of homes that that you can search for. So you have new construction homes, newly built homes, and of course, that's obviously a house that nobody has ever lived in. And with those, there's a little bit of a different process when it comes to new construction homes. Typically, you if you've ever went out and kind of window shopped for houses, you've seen that there's a agent on duty at the property. That agent represents the builder or the developer of that property. They're there solely for them. So you always want to make sure that you have representation on your end when you go look at new construction homes, because you want to make sure you're getting the right deal and negotiating properly on the new construction home, because there are, in some cases, there might be upgrades that can be added to the house. There might be some type of incentives that you can take advantage of with during that transaction. So like I said, you want to make sure you have some type of representation there, because like the agent there is solely there for the representation of the builder or the owner of that property. Then you have resale homes. Resale homes are houses that somebody else has lived in and they're currently trying to sell it, and they have an agent that's representing them on their behalf. Now, so for sale by owner, that's when the owner has put the property on the market. They don't have any type of representation whatsoever. So they set the price that they want to sell it for. And in these cases, this is when it might be a case of the seller don't want to pay the commission. Now, we can negotiate that and have them go ahead and pay it anyway. But one of the reasons why some owners decide not to get an agent, because they want to try to save as much money as possible. So they will go with the route of not wanting to pay commission on that sale.
And then I'm just going to jump into, so just going back to the new construction, I'm going to tell you the importance again of why you would want to have a realtor for these transactions. When you are dealing with the new construction, they have their own lenders, right? And sometimes those lenders are going to be offering you some discounts, some incentives if you go with their lender. You also want to still look at other lenders and see what they're going to do. This is where we tell you that you definitely want to compare, shop around. Just don't take what sounds like the best offer, right? And then as far as the for sale by owner, like we said before, when you're selling your home, this home is very important to you. You've been in this home. It is very emotional. That's why it's good to have the representation on your part as the buyer, because you want somebody that can go in and say, because you're buying, you're emotional too. Like, you're about to spend some money. This is what I'm asking for. You want somebody to kind of be level-headed, who can see both sides and can be, bridge that gap and get to the final decision, which is having a closed transaction. I just want to throw that out there. For sale by owner, they're all not bad. Sometimes they do get a bad rep, but their goal is to sell their home. And usually, like Mario said, they are trying to keep as much money as they possibly can.
That, or in some cases, they just don't know any different.
Right.
And they just think that this is how they're supposed to do it. And that's when we come in, and assist with that. And in some cases, they would decide to, okay, well, I'll just go ahead and get an agent myself.
Right. I got you. I'm sorry.
All right. So then you have real estate investor sites for searching for homes. So if you're an investor, then obviously you'll be looking for investment type properties. Estate sales are when somebody unfortunately have either lost their house or passed away, and then it's the house is up for sale through an estate or probate situation.
All right, so we have different types of search tools that we can use when we are helping you find your home. So you have the agent search tool. So that's what we use. We have what we call MLS, or a multi listing system, where we can go in and we can see all the houses that are on the market within the area. So we go in, we can look at specific things that you're looking for that helps us narrow down where we should be looking in the area. And it also helps us compare the different prices. We can see what has previously sold, what it has sold for. So us having that search really helps you, because we can help you. And like I said, when it comes to negotiating, we also have an agent network. So even within EXP, there are agents that we can go to and we can say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Who do you know that has a property like this? Or sometimes we can talk to somebody and say, hey, I have a property that is coming. It's not out there yet, right? So we kind of can be in the loop for you. And then our website, you can always go to one of our websites and those are listed. We'll list those so you can take a screenshot, but you can go to one of our websites and you can search on your own. The customer search, you have websites, like I said, you have yard signs. So when you're out about and you're driving and you see signs that says for sale by owner, if you see the signs that says open house here, there are sometimes people have their houses out there, and if they're for selling it on their own, it's not necessarily listed, right? So if you see those homes, you definitely want to let us know. Like Mario said, the model homes on the new construction, your friends might say, hey, I was out and I saw this house. I thought you might like it. So, and then the FSBO, for sale by owner, you want to make sure that you're looking at those things and then just relaying that back to your realtor. Then you have the high-tech tools, which are automated home search system. Again, you get that when you go to one of our websites and sign up. You can say what you like, and then you'll get emails when those things pop up on the market. So you're like in the know, just like we're in the know, right? Did you want to say anything else on that? Okay. So we found your home. We've gone through the process. Mario's going to tell you all about making an offer.
All right. So making an offer. So again, like Tayla said, you found the perfect home. You fallen in love with it. You love everything about it, or at least most of the things about it. You're not gonna let the small things be a deal breaker. We have to understand, again, there's two parties involved. So in order to win this offer, we need to know, what does the seller want in this? Because we want this to be a win-win for both parties. What does the seller want? Of course, what you want is important as well, but we need to know what the seller wants. Are they looking to sell pretty quick because they need to move out of town or whatever the case may be? Are they looking to
stay a little
bit longer? So those are things that we need to talk about as far as, like, before we even put in the offer. The earnest money is something, is a certain amount, not a certain amount of money, but an amount of money that you put with the offer to say, hey, I'm really serious about buying this house. So I'm going to give you this money to show you how serious I am. And this money will usually be held by the attorney, and at closing, it will go towards the closing costs. But this is basically in consideration of purchasing this house, to say, I am really serious about getting this house.
Earnest money, before Mario goes a little further. So earnest money, it does not necessarily have to be money. In most cases, it is money. A lot of times people might say, I have this old car is worth $20,000. I'm going to put my car up. So with that earnest money, it's saying, hey, I'm going to meet all of the requirements that you've set forth for me. And for whatever reason, if I back out and I did not do what I said I was going to do when I said I was going to do it, you have the right to keep my money, right? Or to take my car or whatever. So again, when you're putting up that earnest money, like Mario said, it's just saying, hey, I really am serious. I'm not here to waste your time. I don't want you to take your house off the market and then I decide no, and now you missed out on somebody who was more serious than I was. Exactly. So that's why.
So it's something of monetary value, whether it is actual cash money or like Taylor said, a car or a diamond ring or whatever, something of monetary value to say again that I'm really serious about this and I really want to get this house. Pre-approval letter, you definitely have to present that when we're making an offer because you don't want to. The seller wants to know that you actually got the money. Like anybody can put in an offer, say, hey, I want to buy this house. I'm gonna put in this offer, but they want to know, they need to see proof that you actually have some type of financial backing, whether it's through a loan or cash. If you have cash, you can show proof of funds in your bank account. You can get that from the bank. They don't have to show your bank statement, but you can get that from your from whatever bank you are with. But they would need to see some proof of funds to say, hey, all right, this person actually got the money. Important dates, and this kind of falls into what the seller wants as well. Important dates, again, when they plan on moving out, then taking possession of the house, but also your due diligence time period. The due diligence time period is within like a week, so 7 days, sometimes 10 days, depending on what you want it to be. During that time, this is when the inspection happens. So you are always going to get an inspection. They come in, make sure, look at all the material facts, see if there's any defects in the house.
Appraisals
and things like that happen during that time period. And if during the due diligence time period, if you decide to back out, you can back out without penalty, but it has to be within that due diligence time period and you can get your earnest money back. But if you back out after the due diligence, then you will lose, more than likely you will lose your earnest money. The expiration of the offer, that definitely needs to be on the documentation. They have X amount of days to accept this offer or we're going to move on. You don't ever want to leave that open because if say 2 weeks go by and then they decide to take this offer, you left that open, then they can still accept your offer and you may have moved on and put an offer in on another property. Now you're in a sticky situation that you don't want to be in. And then of course, the closing date, when do you want to close on this property? And that's usually when you want to take possession, or if they need to stay in there a little bit longer after you close, that need to be discussed as well.
And then also with the expiration of the offer, just to piggyback off what Mario said, you also don't want to not know the expiration of the offer. And that's also if they counter offer you, right? You make an offer, if they counter offer you, you don't want, the time is of the essence. Let me just say that you don't want to be thinking that you have time and then you've missed your opportunity to accept the offer that they've countered, right? Or they're taking too long and you've missed out on another house that you were interested in because they accepted someone else's offer while you were waiting, right? So time is of the essence, and that goes for the seller as well as for the buyer. Okay, I'll let you finish.
Yeah, no. And so, yeah, that's why I said it's going to be it has to be a win-win for both parties. So it has to make sense for both sides. So inclusion in the home, you want to, so say they decide, the seller wants to leave the stove, the refrigerator, and the microwave, I don't know, the washer and dryer, that has to be included in the offer. So there'll be a section on the documentation where that has to be checked, and that has to be understood that in this offer, I want you to leave. I like your stove. I really like that refrigerator. I like that washer and dryer. I want this to be included in the offer.
And also, sometimes when we're looking at houses, when we're looking in our MLS system, it may say that, okay, you can come look at this house, but please note that that chandelier that's in that front room, that grand chandelier, it's going with the homeowner.
Because it was a part of the family and we're taking it with us.
Right. Now, if you decide, I really, really like that chandelier, and you can put that in your offer. Just know they've already told you, no, you don't want it. But you can say, hey, I am willing to do this if you're willing to leave this here. So again, that's why it's good to have the buyer, or if you're saying the price of this house is only worth, the house is only worth it because that chandelier, if you take that chandelier with you, then I want you to give me a credit for this amount, you know? So those are things that, again, negotiation, these are things that you talk about when you're making an offer. What is going to be included? What am I getting?
Right, exactly. And so the offer can be either accepted and then we move on to the next stage, or they might counter offer and come back and say, hey, and can we go a little bit higher or a little bit lower, or they might just outright decline it. And if they decline it, that doesn't mean that you can't come back and make another offer. That means just that particular contract is dead. and you have to start all over. And if you really like the house, then you can just put in a new offer, and it could continue, or we can just move on to another one.
Alrighty.
All right, so these are the hidden costs of buying a house. We kind of touched on these a little bit before. We're going into more detail. Again, the earnest money, once the offer is made and accepted, earnest money is given to show true interest in purchasing the property. And it's usually around 1%. There's no specific amount of money, but usually it's around 1% of the sales price, which is the going rate. And this is not the same thing as the down payment. This does not go towards your down payment. This is, again, just in consideration of showing that you're serious about buying this house. And during the closing, if everything goes well, the earnest money will go towards your closing costs. Down payment, which pretty much I'm sure you're familiar with, can range between 0 to 20% depending on the loan type. A home inspection. So the buyer is responsible for the purchase of a home inspection. It depends on the square footage of the house. So it can range between $250 and $600+, just depending on the size of the house. And also it can depend on what type of home inspector do you have coming to look at the house. It could be just a general home inspector, or it could be somebody that specializes in certain things. So somebody that may specialize in termites, somebody that specializes in water damage or swimming pools. If there's a pool at the house, they might have a inspector for that. So those prices can range based on that as well. And that does come out of the pocket of the buyer. And I'll express sincerely, you want to get an inspection, whether the house is a resale or brand new. Brand new houses are still built by humans. You want to get an inspection pre-drywall and post-drywall, because you want them to look at the wiring and the plumbing in the wall before they cover it up with the drywall.
And then also going back, remember we talked about the conventional loan, we talked about the FHA loan. With your FHA loan, this is a requirement. If you decide to go with the conventional loan, you do have the choice to say, oh, I'm gonna waive my right, because it's your right. I'm gonna waive my right to the inspection, right? But just know, if you waive your right to the inspection and you buy a home and you get in the home, once that contract is closed, it is your home. If there were no contingencies that, oh, if I'm in the home for so many days and I find this, no, you had that chance during your due diligence, right? So if you get in your home and there's mold in the walls, you get to pay for the mold in the walls. If you get there and, oh, the water heater didn't work, or it's a different time of year, and now you're realizing, oh, this heater doesn't really heat, right? It was cold when we were out, the winter blew fine. That's why you want to have a professional come in and take a look. We cannot stress that enough. Okay, but I digress. Moving on.
All right, and so appraisals, lenders usually require this because they want to make sure that they're making the right investment, because at the end of the day, their bottom line is making their money back and then some. So they are going to require some type of, in most cases, now there's some where you can waive the appraisal, but in most cases, they are going to require some type of appraisal, again, just to make sure the house is actually worth what the seller is selling it for. And they want to make sure that they can actually get their money back, and it's a wise investment for them.
And then also for you, you want to make sure that even if your lender is saying, hey, we're willing to give you the loan for this, you just want to make sure that you're not paying too much for your home, right? So not just for the lender, but for yourself as well. You want to make sure that you're getting paying what you want. We're talking about getting equity in this investment. It's a huge investment for you. You want to make sure that as you're making your payments, you are getting equity, and not when you look at it a year later, you've been paying and you're still like behind, because now your house is appraising for way less than what you've paid for it. So we saw a lot of that in these last couple of years. People were paying so much for houses, and
now they're
now that
down.
the system, things are starting to regulate and kind of balance out. It's like, oh, you pay way too much for that. So just the appraisal, while it's for the lender, it is also for you. 100% recommends it.
And closing costs. So the buyer and the seller or seller will have fees to pay at closing. And typically the seller, usually they have a higher amount of closing costs to pay. But we'll go over the details as far as what you as the buyer will pay when it comes to closing costs. And again, the loan estimate document that you will receive from the lender will give an idea of what that is. And then closer to the actual closing date, then you will get a document that's more specific to exactly what you will have to pay at the closing table.
All right, anybody have questions? We're still good? All righty, the chat's a little quiet over there. All right, moving
So if
along.
you have any questions, feel free to ask anything. And of course, we know it will answer it. If not, we can find out the information and we can reach out to you later on.
So your offer is accepted. So when your offer is accepted, what's gonna happen is you're gonna give the earnest money to the attorney, the brokerage or the title company. In most cases, it's gonna be the attorney. And as the buyer, you do get to choose your attorney. Is that right?
Yes,
Yes,
that
so
is.
as the buyer, you get to choose your attorney. So we are actually working, with our team and our mentors to make sure that if you don't have anybody that you feel like you can trust as an attorney, that we have a list of trusted attorneys to work with. So, but yeah, so you want to give your earnest money to the attorney. You want to make sure that you get the inspection, and you also want to make sure that repairs are going to be made. Okay, so during the due diligence, we told you that you get your inspection, you get your appraisal. When you put in your offer, you want to say, hey, or they've accepted your offer. But when you're putting in that offer during that due diligence, you want to go back and say, hey, this is what I found. I found that the water heater needed to be replaced. Again, you can modify your offer during that time to say, well, I'm willing to go forward if you pay for that. So you want to make sure that all those things are done when they accept your offer, and that they're going to do it.
Either have somebody come fix it, or they can just give a credit.
Right, and say, okay, well, we'll sell it to you for less. We'll take that off at closing.
During the appraisal. So again, usually we want it to happen during the due diligence time period, but in some cases, especially here recently, there's been times where the appraisal didn't happen until after the due diligence, but there's a appraisal contingency. So that pretty much covers you just in case it happens outside the due diligence time period. Whereas if it doesn't appraise for however much they're selling it for, that you can still back out without any type of penalty. But you definitely want to get some type of appraisal done. And if it appraises that where around where they are selling it, then you're good to go. If it appraises far less, then you can go back to the negotiation table and say, hey, all right, it didn't appraise it for this much. Either we can drop the price, or again, at the closing table, can you apply more credit towards my closing costs? So there's options around that as well. Home insurance, you have to get in home insurance. Just like when you buy a car, before you drive it off the lot, you have to get car insurance. When you buy a house, before you can get those keys at the closing table, you have to get some type of home insurance. So if you have renter's insurance, or even if you have car insurance now, I would recommend going to them and see if they have some type of bundle deal that you can get to get a good good rate on your home insurance.
And that's important because stuff happens,
Yes.
y'all. You
Stuff
don't want to
definitely
be
happens.
on the day of closing, you own the home. I think in Georgia, on the day of closing, you own your home.
If specified in the agreement.
And you don't want to be at the closing and then you come home and the house burns down and you didn't have any insurance, because now your beautiful investment is gone and that lender still want their money back. Okay. So, and I know it's sad, but I'm pretty sure somewhere that has happened,
which is
right?
Why at some point they was like, okay, y'all need to get insurance before you get these keys.
Yes. So you want to finalize all of the mortgage details. Again, you're going to talk to your lender and make sure that everything is what it was supposed to be, what you have outlined. Make sure you understand what your payment is you want to make sure that you get as much information at this point as possible. You want to do your final walkthrough.
Yep.
And again, that is just making sure that everything that you and the seller had agreed upon has been done. And you want to make sure that you've done your part to make this a smooth transaction, because you want them to be doing their part as well.
Before you go to the next one,
Yeah.
I want to finalizing the mortgage details. that's when the underwriter is still going through the process of making sure that you're good on your end. They're still checking your credit. They're still making sure you have the money in the bank, because they will check your bank accounts. They want to make sure you still have that down payment. They want to make sure you still have the funds that's necessary. And they also want to make sure that you haven't done anything to your credit that will change how much you would be pre-approved for. So stand on that for a second with the credit. While you're going through the process of buying a house, do not add anything to your credit. Don't go make any big purchases. Don't go buy a new car. Don't go buy any furniture on credit. Don't make any big purchases that's going to put a huge impact on your credit, because the underwriters will see it. There's no way around it. They will see it, and it will change or possibly make you lose your pre-approval.
And that happens so much because you've worked on your credit, because you're like, I'm going to buy a house. So you spent 6 months working on your credit, and now you are approved and you're excited. But not only are you approved for a house, now you can get approved for everything, right? And you done got you a new credit card. You're going to take you some trips. Guess what? All that stuff is going to increase your debt to income ratio. And that can, when you get there, they're like, oh no, we're not going to.
I see that you bought
yeah,
such and such, and that's actually happened before. I've had a client that it actually happened for. It happened with, so I know for a fact that it actually does happen.
Yes. So you just want to just wait until, like, it's fun. I want to go shopping. Look at stuff. Yes. Tell them you're gonna put it on layaway, right? Can you just hold it?
Be excited, but wait. Trust me, just wait, because as soon as when you close, go for it.
Yeah. And then go crazy after. But you want to make sure that you have closed on your home. All right. And then you want to get your closing disclosure form. That usually is 3 days before.
Yeah, 3 days before. And this is when it gets real specific on how much your closing costs are going to be. Like, they're within 1% of what it's actually going to be. And I say 1% because on the day of closing, they might call you and say, hey, can you go and get a check real quick? Something changed, and you may have to pay an extra $200, just for an example. But the closing disclosure form is usually within 1% of how much your actual closing cost is going to be.
All right. So we kind of went over this, but what should happen through the due diligence? I promise y'all I'm going to just read right through this, because we've covered it for the most part. So if there's a seller disclosure statement, look over it carefully for any potential problems. You want to conduct a general home inspection that also checks for radon, mold, asbestos, insects, water, the quality of water, whether there was lead paint in the house. You want to make sure that there's no water damage to your home. You want to make sure that if there's a septic system, that you have that inspected. You want to make sure that the plumbing is not linked to a public sewer. You want to check to make sure that the property is not in a flood zone. I lived in a house once, and it should not have been in a flood zone, y'all. It was just the way the house was made. It was my grandparents' home. And every time we had a good rain, the water would run down the driveway. And it was the weirdest thing. It was like a concrete barrier, and then it would rush into the basement. Right. We had that basement treated for mold and repainted so many times until they finally just moved. And somebody lives there now. It just drives me crazy when I see it. I'm like, do they know? Do they know? But yeah, so you want to make sure that the property is not in a flood zone. You want to make sure that there are no property line violations. So that's important to know, because you don't want to get into a home and then your neighbor is like, nuh-uh. You are in, that's my line, that's my property, right? You want to know what is yours. And then maybe the person that has lived there before you had an understanding with the neighbor, but they don't know you, right? So you want to make sure that you know exactly what's yours, what is your property, right? If there's an HOA, you want to make sure that it is sound financially. You do have the right to ask them, you know, what do y'all do with the money?
What is your budget?
What is the budget, right? When I paid this HOA fee, what are the bylaws? I need to know all of this before I say that I'm done with this due diligence, right? Because maybe you don't like some of the rules that the HOA have. Maybe you like to decorate, and the HOA is probably like, yeah, no, we don't do big blow ups outside. Or maybe you don't like the color of your house and you want to change it. Well, they're like, no, we don't like that color. You can't have a fence. You want to know all of that before you move in, okay? When buying a townhouse or a condo, you want to make sure that there are no special assessments or large upcoming fee increases. So again, the person that's selling you, the seller, they may have things set, right? But like I said, prices have increased. So people are charging more for everything. You don't want to get in and now, oh my gosh, this is not what I was understanding as far as like what I'm paying out every year. So you have the right to ask as many questions as you want to ask. This is big purchase. You don't want to be blindsided. If you're buying a condo or a townhouse and you have pets, you want to make sure that they allow pets. What type of pets? Can it be a big dog or a little dog? Do they allow you to have snakes on the inside? I don't think they would care, but yeah, things that you want to know. When there's a homeowners association, you want to make sure that there are no pending lawsuits against them because that can affect you and the money that you pay into the HOA. You want to get a breakdown of the home's utility costs. So with that, you can actually contact the water company, the electric company, and you can see on average, how much was it the bill? How much would it cost monthly based on the size family that's there now or the home? Like, what are the trends? Again, those costs are not considered debt because you will be paying them monthly, but you still want to know, in addition to your mortgage payment, that your utility bills still afford you to live a happy life. For example, in our home, we started out paying
like $110 a month for electric bill.
And by the summertime,
360, 380.
And we were like, what in the world? Well, this is normal. We didn't ask that question, right? But it's gonna go down.
Yeah.
We're blessed. But again, things that you want to, you have the right to ask the question.
And part of that is due to the fact that during the summertime, so when they create the electricity for the houses, they have to use a source of energy to create the electricity. So their prices for their energy goes up and they pass that along to the consumer.
Just like they have that special summer gas.
So they have this special summer electric fees,
right?
Electric rates that they have. So this is our first summer here, so this is a first time experience with that. But yes, it definitely check the home utility costs in the area.
Right. And then don't just say, oh, what was it these last few months? You want to know, like, what does it typically look like? Check to see if there's any negative history with the property, such as a murder or paranormal activity. I know a lot of people laugh and giggle when we say that, but you want to know that stuff is real. So you just want to know. And then it also affects you because if you don't check, or if it's something that doesn't bother you, when you decide that you want to sell your house 5-10 years down the road, you don't want it to be a hard sell for you, right? Exactly. And so you want to make sure, again, that your investment is working for you. You want to look over the school and the neighborhood rankings. Again, you have access to that. If you are high, or if education is very high, you want to make sure that on your list that, hey, the school ratings are awesome. The school is ranked well. Their graduation rate is high. You can find all that information. You can look on like crime reports to see if there's a lot of crime in your neighborhood. Just because it looks pretty doesn't mean it's always pretty. And just because it looks bad doesn't mean it always is, right? So you have the right to kind of look and look at those things. You want to check out the neighborhood at different times of the day. Again, you want to see, is it, especially on the weekends, you want to know if your neighbors turn up on the weekends, or you want to know if they don't turn up, if you're the one who likes to turn up, right? You want to make sure that you're in an environment where, like I said, most people stay in their home 5 to 10 years. You want to make sure that when you're in your home, that you're comfortable in your home and you're comfortable with your neighbors.
You're not only buying the house that you're living in, but you're also buying the neighborhood.
Oh, that was good.
You want to make sure that you are comfortable in the neighborhood, but then you also want to make sure that the people that you're going to be around are comfortable as well.
Yeah. Now we don't care what they think, but you still,
but you don't want to be, you don't want to be the disruptor of the community if it's not that type of community. Like I said, if you are the person that turn up all the time and this is not the neighborhood for that, this might not be where you need to live. So you don't want to come in and be that person that everybody looking at side-eyed and looking crazy. So you want to make sure it works for
Mhm.
you and as well as the people that you're around.
Yes. All right, you want to verify that any neighborhood covenants or restrictions, again, that goes to the HOA. When I was saying that you want to get the laws, the bylaws, you want to know what you can do, what you can't do. You want to assure that there are no environmental issues in close proximity to the property. So again, you want to, I said this before, we are, everywhere we've always lived by train tracks. I don't know what we like about them. I don't even hear the trains anymore, but for some people that may be disruptive to you, right? Sometimes that can affect the foundation of your home, I'm sure. So there are things that you want to think about. If there are toxic waste
Like
down the street,
like a
power plant, you know, you want to think about all those things. Again, all of this is going to happen during that 7-day due diligence,
or however long it is.
The due diligence. But again, these are things that you may want to start thinking about before you even put in an offer, right? These are things that you can kind of ask yourself. You want to do a title search. We typically have somebody that will do that for you. You do pay for it, right? But that's going to make sure that there are no liens on the property. You want to make sure that there are no other problems with the title. You want to make sure that the person who's selling you this home owns this home, right? I have heard the story before. I don't know if you all know Les Brown. He tells a story about how he bought his mom the house, and it was a quick buy, right? And then once he got into the house, because he didn't do the title search like it was suggested, and found out that there was a lien on the home. Since he owned that home, he was responsible for paying it. So he still had to pay it, but then he also had to move out because he couldn't pay it right away. They seized his property, right? And he still had to pay it. Right. So there are things that you just want to make sure that you're following. And then last but not least, you want to make sure there's no upcoming zoning changes. You want to make sure that if you don't want to be across the street from a new shopping center that they're putting up, or you just want to make sure that the plan in the area is what it's going to be when you're buying the home, and that they're not planning on changing it. All righty.
And if you need to take a screenshot of that, go ahead and take a screenshot real quick.
It was a lot.
Yeah, so yeah, take a screenshot, and if you need to write it down later. But yeah, it's a lot of information, but a lot of valuable information, because these are things that you definitely need to consider during the due diligence time period. Because again, this is a huge purchase, so you want to make sure that it's going to be the right purchase.
All right, moving on.
All right, so we're nearing the end. So we're going to go through the closing cost breakdown. Now, this is just a general list of what the closing costs will be, and it can vary depending on where you live and the how specific the type of loan that you have. So it could vary. But so these are buyer's closing costs. So you have the property appraisal, you have the processing fee. The processing fee is usually what goes to the underwriters and all the lenders and all that stuff. And then they have additional underwriting fees and more lender fees that you have to pay. And it'll all be broken down on the closing disclosure form on how specifically how much that will be. Your loan discount fees, and that's that pertains to your interest rate. And I don't know if you've ever heard the term buying down points. And so basically that's what the loan discount fees are. So you can actually buy down your interest rates. So say your interest rate is at 5% again, and you want to, and the buy down points is 0.25. And so you would take 0.25% of whatever the cost of the house will be. And so say the house is $100,000, and 0.25% of that is what?
I don't know. You can talk about that with your
25%,
lender.
$2,500.
Yes.
We'll say that, and that will buy 0.25 down, and that will bring you down to 4.75. So that's what that is.
Yeah.
Recording fees. So they have to record the documentation of the transfer of the property from the seller to the buyer. That has to be paid for. The settlement officer fees, the title insurance, again, making sure that the title is in fact legit, make sure there's no liens. The person that's selling the house actually owns the house. Document preparation fees, pretty self-explanatory. To prepare the documents, you have to pay for that. The escrow taxes and insurance. So there will be an escrow account set up where your property tax and your home insurance will go into to ensure that those things are getting paid. Because the last thing you want to happen is your property tax doesn't get paid, because then that will be an additional lien on the house. So usually there'll be an escrow account set up where a portion of your monthly payments will go into this account. So that way your property taxes are covered, as well as your insurance, whether it's the home insurance or the if you have a prime mortgage insurance or the mortgage insurance premium. Prorated taxes. There may be prorated taxes where the seller had paid up to a certain amount in the year, and then you need to pay an X amount for the remaining part of the year. Credit report, they are going to pull your credit, and unfortunately you have to pay for that.
Yeah, they gonna make you pay.
You're gonna pay for it. Again, transfer fees, transferring the deed from the seller to the buyer. There's fees for that, and then of course your closing attorney and notary fees. And again, this is just a general rundown. It depends on where you live and how specific your loan is going to determine what exactly is going to be on your closing costs.
Yes. So again, just going back, it just to kind of, I guess, to kind of get back to the closing costs. Like we said, buying a home is not just putting down the down payment. A lot of people think it's just my down payment. There are a lot of other fees that you want to make sure that you have. So if you're looking to buy your home, and you can say in the chat if you're looking to buy in the next 3, 6 months or a year. But yeah, if you're looking to buy your home, you want to make sure that you're thinking about all of these different fees. You just want to make sure that you have enough. In some cases, you can get the seller to cover some of this cost. But again, it's going to be you having a good realtor, someone who can negotiate these things for you. And then just knowing their willingness to sell, right?
Exactly. But how motivated are they selling? Why are they selling? And
Right.
I will say this too, you can go to the next slide, but I will say this, during the fall and winter months is the ball is definitely in the buyer's court. And I say that because during this time of year, a lot of people are not necessarily out there looking to buy houses in the sense of the competition, because a lot of it happens during the spring and summertime. So during the fall and winter, you have an advantage to actually buying a house because there's not as much competition. And then also these sellers in some cases are willing to contribute towards the closing costs, whether to contribute to towards the closing costs or contribute towards, again, the buy down points of actually helping to lower your interest rate. I know we've been talking a lot about the high interest rates here recently. And so the buy down option could be an option to help get those interest rates down. So during the fall and winter, you have those potential incentives of getting a house at a better deal, whether it's a new construction. A lot of new construction companies are offering incentives towards closing costs, or again, the buy down option. I've seen ranges between $15,000 and $25,000 with some of these new build companies. So yeah, the option is definitely in your favor in the fall and winter as far as buying a house.
All right, so the closing cost breakdown. The closing cost fees are typically 1 to 6% of the loan amount. The percentage varies depending on the loan amount, the location, your financing options, and the lender. That's why we tell you you want to shop around. There's an example here. Feel free to take a picture of the screenshot, but a picture of the screenshot. Take a picture of the slide or a screenshot. An example, a $300,000 loan, you can expect to pay between $3,000 and $18,000 in fees. Your down payment is not including in the closing costs, and but it can be negotiated. Like I just said, the seller can contribute a limited amount toward the buyer's portion of the closing costs. So then you have a list of what, if it's a conventional loan, FHA versus USDA loan, and the VA loan. Now, let me say this, we didn't really cover this a lot, but you do have an opportunity. We talked about the different loan types. If you are looking to buy land, there are loans for that. Again, talk to your lender. And there are loans for that. And then they also will give you a loan towards the actual building of the home. So those are things, again, if you would rather take that route.
Yes, a loan to construction loan.
Yes.
And there are also the option, depending on who you go through, that you can roll your closing costs over into your monthly mortgage. So of course, talk to the lender about that and see if they allow that. But it can be an option if, so say you don't have the closing costs and the seller doesn't want to contribute, they may have the option to roll that closing costs over to your monthly payments. Now, it will obviously change what your monthly payments are, and they will go back and look at your debt to income ratio
Right.
to see if you can still afford that. But that could potentially be an option if you don't have the closing costs at the to put down at the closing table.
Again, we're gonna talk to your
Talk
lender.
to the
We are
lender.
not
We're
lenders.
not
We're not
lenders.
experts in
They
that,
would
but
be, yeah, they would be.
they can answer all
they
those
can answer
questions.
all that stuff, but that's just to give you an option for
And
that.
that way you have an idea of what kind of questions you may need to be asking, right? All right. So today is the big day. We're going to accompany you to the closing. We're going to answer any questions. We're going to verify that your closing paperwork matches. Y'all, I've been talking. We're going to verify that the closing paperwork matches our purchase contract. All right, so things that you're going to bring, Mario's going to read these off.
Bring your ID. You have to make sure to show that you are who you say you are. Everyone who is purchasing the property must be present. So make sure you get together and coordinate the right time that everybody can be there. If they can't be there, let them know in advance, so that way they can reschedule, or if they need to do it virtually. But you still have to send some form of ID to let them know that you are who you say you are. But let them know in advance if plans change, and we get plans do change, but you have to let them know. Otherwise, the deal cannot go through.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You need to bring a certified check or wire your down payment to the closing and closing costs to the attorney. Either or is fine. They'll let you know which one they prefer, or they may give you both options and let you know and let you decide which one you want to do.
Yes. All right. So this is our contact information. Do you all have any questions? We are happy to answer them here. If you would like to contact us one-on-one, feel free to give either Mario or myself a call. Yeah, we thank you for spending, or an email.
Go to the website. You can even start looking at some houses on there, get an idea, get yourself kind of excited. I know a lot of you probably had goals to purchase in 2022.
There are 75 days
left.
Christmas, 81 days to the new year.
You're definitely on the right path because you took the step to get on this seminar, to get this information. So you're definitely on the right path. So you still have time to purchase this year, or maybe top of next year, but you are on the right path. So appreciate y'all getting on this seminar with us. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and ask them now, or you can reach out to us individually, and we'll be definitely happy to assist you and hopefully assist you with the whole home buying process.
Right. And Armando, I do see, and so I'm sure Mario will get with you and schedule that one-on-one. Miss Nari, I'm happy that you are Mr. Nari. I can't see your face, but Nari, I'm happy that you got some very good information. You all have our permission, because if we were in person, I would have some donuts and something sweet. So you have my permission to go get you a nice hot donut so that you can say, oh my gosh, I really enjoyed that seminar. Yes, so thank you all again. We do have another call that we have to jump on in like 15 minutes. So I thank you. We will see you soon. Happy house hunting, and we would love to represent you, okay?
All right, y'all have a great night.
Oh, I don't know how to do that. Oh, the end is down there.